Today's a bit of a different one. We're going to be changing these parts in this geberit toilet concealed frame. Here are the parts that I'm using. Here's a fill valve, brand new. So to gain access with the push plate, you slide it to the right and then lift it off on the right hand side. It's hinged, as you can see, by that metal hinging plate that locks in from the right hand side. So with that removed, grab a Phillips screwdriver and undo these two screws that retain the flush plate back plate to the tile. These should be quite easy, they shouldn't be tight, it's just to hold the plate to the tiles. Keep them to one side. With that removed, take that off and put that to one side. Next, you want to move everything out of the way. Next, twist these. They'll either go one way or the other, don't force them. So this one, top left goes up, bottom right goes down, and then slide them out. They retain the splash guard at the back, so you can now unclip the splash guard, which is from the top or the sides. Can be quite fiddly, as you can see, it's a little flat blade screwdriver, ping that out, and that will also show you how to gain access to this. Put that to one side. Next, you want to try and find the fill valve shut off, which I couldn't get to, so I've had to remove the cradle first, which has got to come out anyway. So that lifts off at the front and then pulls straight out like so. Put that to one side. Make sure you don't lose any parts in this, because you will need to put these all back in reverse order. So there's a little thumb screw turning off thing to the left hand side. It can be on the right hand side depending on the frame. Turn that clockwise until shut. Then flush the toilet to let all the water out into the toilet. With all the water out, you can pull the centre flush mechanism out. This can be very fiddly to get out. So the tactic is you put it into the top left corner of the unit and then try and get the bottom out, because the bottom is thicker than the top, so you want to try and get the bottom part out first. And so this is the old one that we're going to be replacing. So with that out, you can either then undo the fill valve and change that, or you can put the new flush valve in and then do the fill valve. But for more room and access, I suggest you try and do the fill valve. So the fill valve is on a clip at the back. You've got to pop it off its clip, undo the I think it's 3/4 white connector onto the fill valve, like that. Take that out, put that to one side. Right, so that's all the parts out. Now we've just got to get the new parts in. So starting in reverse order, we're going to go with the fill valve. So the inlet hose you can change left or right depending on where it is. So you want it to fill into the centre of the cistern. So this is why I've put it on this side. Just make sure everything's working, everything's there, and then you've got the tricky task of trying to get it in there. So get a corner in like so. And once again, you've got to put it on the back plate. So you can either screw it onto the braided flexi hose first and then try and push it onto the back plate, or you can push it onto the back plate and then put the braided hose on. Either or, whatever works. But these don't need to be mad tight. You can tighten them by hand and then give it a little nip up with grips later. Or sometimes you can just do it by hand. It is literally an O-ring that slides inside. So it's actually not done on pressure of the nut, but more to make sure the O-ring is sat inside. But a little nip up with a little pair of grips, which is very fiddly and can be quite annoying. But it's literally, like I say, it's literally a few tiny turns, nothing major. So I think I'm just pushing the clip back down to hold it in place. So that's the fill valve done. Box out the way, you know you've got to do it. Next is the flush valve. Undo the box. Should be probably different colours. They normally do change the colours. That means that they've updated their products and stuff like that. It's just identification. So this centre bit you don't need. There's already that part's already in the toilet. So we've got to go big side first to get this one in. So I'm going bottom left, then twist the back plate, that grey back plate in, like so. Once it's in, then you've got to try to allocate it to that cradle that you saw me just put to one side. This also can be very fiddly, and you could think it's in, but you know it's in when the grey lugs at the back locate into the back of the cistern. As you remember, to take it out, you've got to undo these grey clips. It's the same, you've got to locate these grey clips back into the cistern moulding. So as you can see, it's not quick, it is just you can't see either, so it's just keep going until it sits right and you get them clips in. I think I'm just putting the clips on now. Put them clips in, yeah, that's all in. Make sure them clips are definitely in. It goes up and down, like so. So, with them both parts on, you can undo the thumb vent, let it fill up, and give it a few test flushes. So, with all the testing done, we can now start to put back the assembly for the flash in reverse order. So starting with this cradle, you've got to get the green and the white hooks under the two hooks of the flush mechanism, and also there's two circular dots at the back. This should just naturally just want to go in and then clip it in at the front like so. Nothing too hard. If it doesn't feel right, it's probably not. It should just go in. Next is a splash guard. Make sure you get it the right way. It will only go one way because of the rods. Then push it in left and right. Make sure that's nice and clipped in like so. Push all round. With that in, you can then use the rods that fix the back plate back to the tiles in. So these have got to be about a couple of mil back from the tiles. So it sits in because the housing actually sits 2 or 3 mil back further than the tiles. So get them in, lock them in place. Most people don't lock these in. Then a housing for the back plate. Slide over all 3 things. Actually no, 2 things, just the 2 flush points. Get those in. And then with them in, you can then, with the screws that you put in up the top shelf, put them 2 back in. Once again, do not do these hard, literally tight so the back plate doesn't move. Doesn't need to be much pressure on these at all. So just with a Phillips screwdriver, tighten this back down. Just checking to make sure I'm not over tightening them. Give it a wiggle, make sure it feels right and nice and square. As you can see, it can move. It is going to move, it's just plastic on tiles. There's nothing else stopping it from moving apart from them 2 screws. So this, you now want to push from the left to the right, so you push on the springs and then you've got to locate it on the right hand side, push down with your thumb, let it go, make sure it's all in everywhere, give it a tidy, make sure that the flush button, as you can see, are touching the back of the flush button. If they're not, just give it a couple of mil out anti-clockwise to make it longer. There you go, you can see it's not as, you don't have to depress it as much to get the flush. Make sure there's no water running into the bowl when the tank is full. So with that all done, you've now done the toilet part. These are the parts that, if you need them, I'll put on the screen now. So as you can see, on the left hand side is a geberit fill valve, and on the right hand side it's the geberit flush valve. There is different heights of flush valve, so don't take this one for granted. You do need to, everyone is different, so you do need to gain access to find out. Well, I hope this has helped someone fix their toilet or get them out of trouble. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this coming your way next year. Subscribe would be massive. We're nearly at 200. Hope you have a good day. Goodbye.